Dear students, this is the second part of the chapter Albert Einstein at school. I was talking about Albert's hatred towards his school because the situation was not compatible for him there, and the place where he lived was also not suitable for him, as he told these things to his friend Yuri. After being in Munich alone for 6 months, I am starting paragraph wise again. So it is 10th paragraph. Up to 9 I have completed in the first video. After being in Munich alone for 6 months, Albert expressed to Yuri that he feels it is high time he moves away from there. He sees no point in carrying on like this, because if he does, it is only going to result in wastage of his father's money, everyone's time and efforts. Yuri asked if he has any backup plans, to which Albert says that going to Milan would be such a great idea because his father would send him back. It wouldn't be such a great idea. Going to Milan wouldn't be such a great idea because his father would send him back. They were discussing all about it when suddenly an idea occurred to him. He asked Yuri if he knew any doctors. Unfortunately, Yuri could never afford to go to one, but he did have a lot of friends from the medical field. Next paragraph. Albert's idea included a nervous breakdown and a doctor that could advise him that school is bad for him and he needs to stay as far as he could from it. In the next paragraph, Yuri did not think the idea was a success because it was merely likely for a doctor to advise something like that. Albert still wanted to give it a try and find a doctor that specializes in nerves. Yuri offers to ask one of his friends about such a doctor. Albert expressed his gratitude. Yuri told him not to have his hopes high but little. Albert was all hopeful and positive about finding a suitable doctor that will be willing to help him. He even went to the extent of offering to showcase an actual breakdown to make it seem more real. He was full of hope, and Yuri had never seen him feeling like that. Albert told him not to worry about that because a day or two at school would restore him back to his troubled state. Next paragraph. Albert was right, and when Yuri saw him the next time, he actually seemed troubled. By this time, Albert had given up, and he actually was expecting a nervous breakdown if it continued like this. This would have surely made the doctor's work easier. Yuri conveyed to him that he has found just a doctor for him, and he has an appointment the next evening while giving him the address. Albert read the doctor's name, which is Dr. Ernst. Dr. Ernst Weil, E-R-N-S-T, Ernst, and Weil, W-E-I-L, and asked Yuri if he specialized in nerves. Next paragraph. Yuri told him that he was not exactly a neurospecialist and that he qualified as a doctor only last week, and that Albert could even be his first patient. Yuri mentioned that he has known him for a while now and warned Albert not to lie to him because he was no fool. Yuri asked him to be honest and not pretend to have nervous issues. He immediately mentioned that it was also not possible because Albert is the world's worst liar. Next stranger, next paragraph. He spent the next day thinking all about all he was going to say to the doctor. He thought so much that he feared he would actually get a nervous breakdown. Next, Albert went to see the doctor. and told him that he really does not have the right choice of words to describe his miserable situation. The friendly doctor comforted him and told him that Yuri had already done it for him. It turned out that Yuri had told Dr. Weil the entire truth and how Albert wanted the doctor to think he had a nervous breakdown because of school. Albert expressed his displeasure with Dr. Weil, knowing the entire truth, because he felt that the doctor would not help him now. As a result, he would have to go back to school. Again, the friendly doctor comforted him by saying that his situation was well understood even when he had not told anything about it. Albert was surprised with the doctor's reply and asked him how he got to know all about Albert. The doctor very professionally replies that if Albert were not really close to a nervous breakdown, he wouldn't be really seeing him. He then inquired about Albert's plans once he gets out of the school. Albert tells him that he plans on going to live with his parents in Italy, where he would join an Italian college. The doctor expresses lack of clarity on the subject of admission in the college without a school diploma. Albert assures him that his mathematics teacher would provide him with a reference good enough to get him in. Albert claimed to have learned all about mathematics that is taught in a school and some more of it as well. Next paragraph. The doctor is still not convinced if the college idea would succeed, but he is definitely convinced about the fact that Albert going to school is not doing anyone much good. Thus, he confirms if a 6 month away from a school period would be enough to put his plans in place. Dr. Will tells him that he understands the situation so well because he had just stopped being a student. He even refuses to take his fees and asks him to take Yuri for a meal. Filled with joy, Albert took Yuri out for supper, even though he had no extra money. On seeing the certificate, it is the next paragraph, Yuri assures him that 6 months is a good time period because just in case things go wrong, Albert could come back to finish his school diploma. Albert reassures Yuri that this is not going to happen because he is never going back to that place or school. He conveyed his idea of taking the certificate to the head of school the next day, while Yuri reminded him to get the reference letter first from the mathematics teacher. Next paragraph. Mr. Koch, the mathematics teacher, gave Albert a nice referral. He even went to the extent of saying that Albert would soon be ready to teach him, which Albert thought was saying too much, probably out of respect for his teacher. Mr. Koch, K-O-C-H, then put it in different words, but furnished the reference in a way to make it smooth for Albert to enter any college to pursue education in higher mathematics. Next paragraph. The teacher expresses his displeasure about Albert leaving, but again, he knew Albert was wasting his time there. Albert instantly corrected him by saying that Mr. Koch's class was the only class where he was not wasting his time. Albert did not tell him anything about leaving, but Mr. Koch could identify it long before Albert realized himself, and also because of the referral. To his surprise, Albert was called into the head's room, although he was not aware of the reason, and he was himself going to make an appointment, but he was happy that it saved him the trouble of waiting for 1 or 2 hours to meet him. Next paragraph. Albert did not put much thought into why he was called into the office, but somehow he knew it was to punish him for his poor performance and lack of interest. But now he was done with all of it. Next paragraph. To his utmost surprise, Einstein was told that he was not going to be punished this time. The headmaster expressed that he is done with all his laziness and wishes no longer have him there. Albert's first thought was if he was being expelled. Next paragraph. The head of the school was pretty serious and suggested that he left school on his own instead of being expelled because it would be easier for both parties. Albert still did not understand what crime he had committed. The head teacher explained how his presence is creating trouble for teachers to give lessons to other students and how no work can be done when he is around. While standing there, Albert felt the certificate was burning a hole in his pocket, which means that the money he had spent on extracting the certificate, which was paid in terms of a meal with Yuri, had gone waste as the certificate was rendered useless. He was anyway being sent away from school. Regardless, Albert expresses that he was anyway going to leave, to which the teacher replies that at least for the first time they are agreeing on something. Next paragraph. At that moment, Albert was being driven by his desire to tell the head teacher the truth and what he thought of the school. But somehow he managed to resist it because at last his wish was fulfilled. He walked straight out of the school while ignoring the head teacher's instructions with his head high. The last paragraph. He did not even look back at the place where he had spent the most terrible years of his life. He had no real friends or close acquaintances whom he could bid adieu to. He met Yuri before leaving, who wished him well and hoped he would be happy in the country he was going to. Elsa was also back in Berlin with her family. Thus, there was no one else he could say goodbye to. So this is the end of the story. Thank you. Goodbye.